My pleasure to invite the panelists to the stage. The panelists this morning, Ashwin Mahesh. Ashwin is an Ashoka Fellow, a founder and CEO of Magnanimity. He is my colleague at the Institute. He is the advisor to the Chief Minister's Office, co-edits the Public Affairs magazine India Together, and above all, a person who discovered a star. Thanks, Ashwin, for being here this morning. We'll begin with Ashwin.
Good morning, everybody. I speak in a lot of places like this with a stage and an audience at a different level from the stage. And sometimes the organizers will ask me, can you climb the stairs to reach the stage? I find that a somewhat unusual question, because I've never thought of myself as not being able to climb it. But I know why they're asking. They're asking because I'm an evidently disabled person, and they don't know what it is that I might be able to do and what I may not be able to do. It works the other way too. I also go to lots of events where after a function like this they'll have a lunch or a dinner. And in many of those events, you stand in the heat. Well, I have a problem. I can't stand in the heat. So I always look for a place to sit down where I can stand in the heat. And usually in these events, it ends up that the place to sit down and eat is not the place where everybody else is having a discussion, standing together and eating. I don't mind particularly. I understand why these things happen. But the thing to recognize is that for disabled persons, in addition to the evident experience of how things happen in public spaces, there is a private record in each one of us of what it means to be unable physically or otherwise to not do something, to be unable to do something. And Vasanthi was talking about diversity in this country, and asking, how is it that in a country of so many types of people, so widely acknowledged and celebrated, that we don't really have an inclusive society? I think this is the difference between what they call the melting pot and the salad bowl. We have a salad bowl, we have all sorts of things in it, but each one of them can be eaten independently. And if you don't like olives, you don't eat olives. What we are all aiming for is a melting pot in which you don't want to be able to tell the difference between the many ingredients that created that dish, and to be able to say that there is really only one dish. That if you have a certain perception of it in one morsel or the other, it's because those are the ways in which you experience the whole thing. I think that's what we are aiming for. I'd like to give an example. And the conclusion from that is that mere presence in a society is not enough to have inclusion. You can always have a kind of representative presence. Government has quotas for everything, and you can create employment, you can create even budgets for training and things like that. Mere presence is not enough. But increasingly large presence is an important part of creating inclusion and acceptance. And I think this is the reason I like Nevertheless. Nevertheless, I believe, has the capacity to create and foster a culture of awareness about disability in a widespread way. And that is the thing to really latch onto and see how it is that each of us can contribute to this. Now, a couple of years ago we started, and many of you would have seen this around, a couple of years ago I started the Big 10 bus service around town. And one of the things that came up at that time was how do you get over this problem that, the government may prefer the bus to be numbered and labeled in only one language, whereas many people may not be able to read that language. So we created a logo, and I don't know if I could have shown it a bit better, but we created a logo in which the word big, no matter whether you read it in English or Kannada, it will still read big. And later on, that logo actually went on to win some creative awards for the people who created it. And it's kind of ironic that it won an award, but because what we're really trying to say is that it is possible to create a society in which these differences can be merged in a way that our experience of it may vary based on our starting points, but it's really the same thing that all of us are observing. It's possible. I won't say too many different things. I'll say only this much. I believe that people, including people like me, people have the capacity to create and foster the inclusion, the understanding, and the opportunity development for disabled persons that is being sought to be created by Nevertheless and this movement. I think there's a lot we can do. It's always going to be the case that the things that we do will seem incoherent. I can get a few things done in the bus system, I can get a few things done in the municipal corporation. Not because they're going to embrace it on day one, but simply because I can, that's all. In some places you'll just find that individuals are able to do a few things. And what Nevertheless needs to be able to do is tell a story of inclusion and a story of growing awareness about inclusion from these different moving pieces that come together. In some way, this is going to be the challenge of how this movement grows. If we figure out a way to tell the story as a whole, from the many pieces of it that we observe from different times, that will be a great success, not only for this city, but for the country as a whole. I believe this is a doable thing. My only sort of input to this audience and to Nevertheless itself is try to understand, especially in government, how things work in their internal process. If you understand the internal process, there's a lot of things you can get done. When we tried to do the bicycle program in Jayanagar, there's about to be a bicycle program that the city will launch in Jayanagar. And the way we did it was to say, let's study what needs to be done, create an idea of what needs to be done for the infrastructure, turn it into a project proposal, carry out what is called a detailed project on this proposal, estimate the costing, bring that to the municipal council as a program to be funded by the council. And why is this important? Because councils and other legislative bodies in this country work by budgeting for things and funding them. That's their capacity. Once you understand that that's their capacity, it must follow immediately. This is the big third hour. You can see, I don't know where they got it from. That was pretty quick. And it reads both in English and in Kannada. It reads big. This kind of inclusion is doable. But going back to what I was saying about BBMP, once you understand how an internal government process works, it's amazingly straightforward to say, this is what I should take into that process to be able to create an outcome that I'm going for. If we do that, we'll start to see more and more of those outcomes. For my part, I will try to enable as many of those as possible here in the city. I know many of you work closely with me in creating these kinds of outcomes. I'll always be thankful for your support. I apologize for not being able to stay for much of this morning's session. I also want to take half a second to request all of you to support the national campaign for the Jan Lokpal bill. We have worked very long and very hard for this thing. We believe that abolishing corruption in public life is an important part of creating the kinds of positive changes that we are seeking through forums like this. And they are closely related. And if we achieve that outcome, we'll get a lot more. God bless you.